this comic book, The Walking Dead, book number 28. Rick, Glenn, and Michonne are in the governor's office. Gabriel Harris, the governor's right-hand man, is pointing a gun at Rick. Rick and his scouting party from the prison are going to be fed to the zombies, like they did with the helicopter crash survivors. Michonne calls the governor sick, and he tells her to be quiet. He tells them that they'll die if they try to get out. He wants to talk before the fight begins, and if he gets interrupted, his bodyguards will shoot them. The governor asks Rick and the others some questions. He tells them about the helicopter survivors and how they fed them to their zombies. The governor knows that Rick and the others have some kind of place to live and wants to know everything about it. Rick lies, saying they found the riot suits on dead bodies, and that there isn't a place where they have been staying. The governor doesn't believe him, and Bruce Cooper, one of his bodyguards, shoves Rick's head down onto the desk. He says that Rick doesn't understand how serious the situation is. The governor says that he'll always get what he wants, and he cuts Rick's hand off with his knife. Meanwhile, two men, Harold Abernathy and Eugene Cooney, are fighting in the middle of a zombie group. The governor has an evil smirk on his face. Rick is about to black out and mumbles that he'll kill all of them. Michonne jumps on the governor. She bites off his ear, but Bruce manages to restrain her. He asks if he can break her neck, but the governor tells him not to. She will suffer at his hands only. He says that Rick must be taken to Dr. Stevens and kept alive. Otherwise, he'll never be able to find out where they live. Rick is taken to Stevens' office. He inquires about the governor's bleeding ear, but is told that Rick has to be patched up first. Stevens asks if Rick is one of the arena fighters. The governor answers that he asks the questions and that Stevens should do his job. Stevens calls Alice Warren, his assistant, to come and help because Rick has lost a lot of blood. The governor's bleeding stops and he leaves. He then says that he wants Rick's riot suit, so Stevens better not damage it. After he leaves, Stevens asks Rick, "What have they done to you?" Meanwhile, Glenn is crying in his cell. Later, the governor is watching the zombies eat human flesh. Cooper interrupts him and informs him that Michonne has been tied up. In her cell, Michonne is talking to herself about how she can't get the ropes off. The governor comes in, telling Bruce to take off her pants and tie her legs to the walls, and then tells him to leave. The governor asks Michonne how long she thinks it would take for him to ruin her life. He supposes it would take half an hour, and informs her that he plans on visiting her every day as often as he can, until Michonne finds a way to kill herself. He then tells her this is going to be fun. In the Woodbury Hospital, Rick wakes up. He discovers, when rubbing his eyes, that his hand is missing, and the nub is covered with bandages. Michonne is right about one thing. The governor is seriously sick in the head. I don't think I'd say mental illness, just seriously messed up psychopath. I'm glad she bit his ear off. He deserved that. He deserves much worse than that be done to him. He actually feeds humans to the zombies he keeps as pets for entertainment? I don't have words, honestly. He's deranged. The people in the helicopter became zombie food. Now he is going to feed Rick and Michonne and Glenn to the zombies too? Yikes! I feel bad for the people who live in Woodbury. He chops off Rick's right hand. The idiot governor doesn't know that hand is already useless. I think he assumed Rick was right-handed, and it was an attempt at a power play for sure. Dr. Stevens is clearly aware of how mentally off his rocker the governor is, based on his comments, But if he pushes too far, he might be killed as well. At this point, I think Dr. Stevens wouldn't be too upset. He clearly hates the governor. It's well-deserved hatred. At Woodbury, the sickest rules. He most likely took power because he killed others for it. Woodbury is definitely not a democracy or a safe place to live. Glenn gets tossed in his cell and can do nothing but cry. Michonne's fate is far worse at this point. The governor wants revenge, and he plans to assault her every day as often as he can to break her body, mind, and spirit. This guy deserves a horrific death.